I would love to know what Kobe Bryant was like when the cameras weren't on.
Man, I just realized I was sick and tired of feeling trapped in my own body and my own mind and my heart. And I knew my spirit needed to be set free.
My latest prayer has been asking Jesus to give me a spine like him.
What type of spine is that?
A bold one.
All wealthy people are takers. They did something wrong to make that money. So I don't want to be a bad person, so I'm going to stay poor.
I never know how deep this was.
How does it feel when you always say yes to everyone, even when you don't want to do it?
I don't know. It's so personal.
I understand why you're so damn good at this job, bro. By the way, learning a lot from you as you speak.
I'm just praying, I don't fight, I just pray. I only go the way of mistake.
That's lovely, George. I love it. It's a real gift to be around.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That's a very good question. I love you guys. You've given me something to think about. Going for a lot of outlets.
This is exactly where you're meant to be at this season of life.
Thank you.
You know, and maybe it's not forever this season, but it's like you're where you're meant to be.
I appreciate it.
And that's why you're thriving. So
You sent me a voice note saying all this, but in such a loving way. And like coming from you is so inspiring because you're crushing. You not only know your purpose, but you're helping other people find their purpose. And to be honest, that's my dream.
That's great, man.
I think when I met Tony Robbins, I literally turned to my wife. I go, I think this is what I want to do. Like this is. I didn't know somebody could get paid by making people happy. I thought that was just comics, and that was like my brain. And then that's why I'm trying to merge both of these two worlds together. But dude,
great,
it's such an honor having you on the show. Welcome to the George Janko Show. You guys are here with my beautiful wife and our unbelievable guest that we've been talking about this for a very long time.
probably like a year, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Well, Lewis, I have so many questions for you, bro. God willing, it's a lot of them are for the audience, but God willing, a lot of them is for me, man. Because I'm quick to learn, and I guess before we get into anything, my one question that I feel like me and millions of people will have: how do you get so comfortable being so real in front of the camera? And so sorry for the dumpster just outside. Just the most.
That's the authenticity,
just,
man.
Some guy doesn't want to just banging
That's
things
all
around.
good. I think for many years I was trying to project a personality style of confidence, but really I was a scared little boy inside, and I was insecure, and I was projecting like I've got it figured out. This is probably my late teens, 20s, you know, even maybe early 30s a little bit. And it wasn't until I hit around 30, 31, where I kind of had everything. It looked like I had everything figured out. I had a decent amount of money. I had like a beautiful girlfriend. I was healthy. I was playing sports. Like all these things looked good. I had success. I had a personal brand. But for whatever reason, I was just like had so much darkness inside of me. Just a lot of pain, insecurity, self-doubt. And it was like everything was going wrong in all these relationships in my life. And I realized that I was the common denominator. I was the one. I couldn't blame anyone else when everything was going wrong.
So the saying, if it's everybody else, it's most likely you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's so funny.
But I wanted to make everyone wrong for a while. But then when it was like, okay, all these things are happening all at once, there's got to be something that's off. Either something's wrong with me, I'm attracting the wrong people, or I'm out of alignment with who I'm meant to be. And so I started down a healing journey. And that journey made me realize that if and I also launched my podcast just before this. And I almost felt like it was a divine timing where I was like, okay, I have this voice that I'm sharing with the world, and I'm being I wasn't being inauthentic, but I wasn't being truly myself.
Amen.
I was holding back, right? I was still like fun, positive, loving guy, but I was hiding certain elements of me that I was extremely afraid of, that if anyone knew these things about me, then no one would love me.
Did you know that though? Were you covering it up because you knew you were trying to cover it up, or was it like secret even to yourself you didn't know you were covering it up?
I knew I was covering up a lot of stuff, but I didn't think I was supposed to share these things with anyone, not alone like even just friends, family, loved ones, things like that. And I just realized I was sick and tired of feeling trapped in my own body and in my own mind and my heart. And I knew my spirit needed to be set free. And that meant that I needed to create wholeness within me because I wasn't feeling whole. And so again, I was driven to succeed and driven to achieve and get followers and make money and get accolades. But that never made me feel loved. It never made me feel like I was still enough. So I was like, what is it? Why working so hard to accomplish and achieve, but I still don't feel like I'm getting what I want. And it was kind of a wake-up call around 30 where that's when the healing journey really began. And it's a journey. I'm still on it. It's not like I'm like arrived and I've figured out life perfectly, but it has made me feel more peace than I've ever had in my life by healing the wounds of the past that were making me feel trapped.
Thank God.
Yeah.
So there's a place in your life where you just started doing a podcast. You say the universe, I say God, because like when God puts something in your way, it's either he's telling you, I'm going to either put this in front of you, it's going to break you, or it's going to build you.
It did both.
Yeah, it did.
It broke me and built me.
Dude, sometimes you got to break to rebuild.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. My most scared position with God and my most exciting place with God is when he goes, we got to remodel. And I'm like, all right, dude, this is going to be a roller coaster. So you said your first step was when you were right around the time you were starting the podcast. Did you know that podcasting was going to develop this type of skill set with you where you're reflecting? Because when I left Impulsive, when I was starting my own, the one thing that Logan encouraged me, he says, this is the best thing for you because you're going to hyper analyze who your character is and who you're giving to others. And when I sat there, I was like, that is such a profound statement because it's true. You could either run away from what you're looking at and you're like, everybody does that. Or you could just be like, no, I could be better than that. And I could change the way I'm speaking, talking. Even with my relationship with her, we get in such an easy conversation. We talk over each other because we're very, like, we're one. But then I realized, I'm like, wow, that looks rude to other people that I'm doing that to her. And then I'm like, wait a second. I'm cutting her off. That's not nice. And it's even helping my relationship. Like I gotta fix this. Now, you walk into starting a podcast wanting to rebuild. Dude, that had to been daunting to want to fix yourself. But
scary,
now
man.
in front of the world.
Well, here's the thing that happened. It was probably, I launched the podcast maybe 6 months before I started doing inner work and healing work. And before I was into personal development, but I wasn't into inner development. And I think there's a difference. Whereas, like, I was reading self-help books. I played sports growing up, so I was into like all these inspirational quotes on the wall, and it looked cool and it inspired me and motivated me. But I wasn't willing to really dig deep into where my fears were, why they were holding me back, and why I was afraid to actually overcome them and go through them. So fear always held me back, and the fear of what other people thought of me held me back. I don't know if you've ever had that feeling. Of people's opinions of you.
I have it only because I had no friends growing up.
Yeah, I didn't have friends growing up, and that's why I was afraid of it.
No. Mine was like they would come after me and beat me up. And so I was like, maybe I don't want friends. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I was more scared of what God always thought. And then so that kind of took away. But you know what? That is like the biggest gift that I never really talk about, worrying about what other people think of you. If you're basically what I'm saying is if you're getting made fun of in school right now, if you're young and you feel like, why God, why is it? Breathe that in and learn that talent of like turning away what people think. Because the one thing I learned is people think now, but it changes.
Of course.
So, but we stay so dedicated on what they think right now when people really don't care. They just judge you and then move on, move on. So you found this out and you're like, okay, I'm tired of worrying about other people.
I was so afraid of. It wasn't until maybe literally 2 years ago where I had the courage to stop caring what people thought about me and cared more about what God thought of me. Amen. And it took forever though.
Can I ask you a question? What's that feeling? The difference from going from I'm worried about what the world is thinking of me versus what God is thinking of me. Who are these two different people?
My honest answer, it's terrifying. It terrifies me.
The George Janko Show is going on its first tour. It is called The Man on Water, and boy, oh boy, are we excited to come to your city. Guys, we have been dreaming about this since the first day we've ever even shot an episode. It's the time that we get to be on stage and actually hang out with you guys, talk to you guys, answer your questions live, be in a community. And if you guys are excited and if you guys have been a big fan of this show, please join me and maybe some very special guests on the Man on Water tour. I'll see you guys in your hometown.
Because most of my identity was caring about what other people thought of me.
Yeah.
What friends, people that weren't my friends thought about me, family members, what my audience thought about me. What if I lose my audience? All these different fears around people's opinions or judgments of me. And it started to fade in my early 30s. I'm turning 42 in a week, I guess. But it started to fade in my early 30s when I started going on the healing journey. But I don't feel like it really fully I was able to fully overcome it until the last couple of years, to be honest.
What helped you like move that along? Is there someone or something that inspired you to really tackle your inner healing?
My wife Martha is really great at like not worrying that much, and she's a big actress in Mexico and done 40 movies, and so she's just been in that world since she was a teenager.
Yeah.
And I think she did worry about what people think, and then kind of just said, all the only thing that matters is more what my family thinks about me, and making sure that I'm a good person with my family and my like core friends. So she's done a great job of kind of empowering and inspiring me. But the thing that inspired me the most was I didn't want to feel trapped anymore and a prisoner of people's opinions. Yeah. And I just felt like I had Patrick Bet-David on. I think you've had him on, right? Or
Yeah.
do you know him?
Yeah, love him.
And he also inspired me. It was about a year and a half ago when I've had him on a few times, but he said, he said something that was really profound, because here's a guy who's extremely successful, massive business, a lot of money, a lot of fame, all this stuff. And he was like, everything can go away and I'd be fine as long as I have the opinion of one. That's all that matters to me. Not like any of this stuff does not matter.
Amen.
But as long as God has my favor, that's all that matters. And he got really emotional talking about it. And it just showed me like, yeah, don't put their faith in like just people by themselves caring about what they think. Yep. Put it in, what does God care about? And it's a journey for me. It's not like I have this mastered. It's still like an ongoing journey daily to remind myself. And a couple of years ago, I was just sick and tired of feeling worried about what people thought about me. And so I just felt like I needed the courage to overcome that. And I started creating extreme boundaries with people. I started texting people and just saying, hey, this doesn't work for me anymore. I started telling certain family members certain things that don't work for me anymore. And I was afraid about people getting upset at me all the time.
Because in your heart, all you want to do is love them and build them. But it's this consistent hamster wheel like mindset where it's like, I do a good, but they forget. And then you do one thing it's for you, and then it all comes down and you build up this resentment.
Yes.
And
I'm a giver.
Yeah.
I want to give and give and give and help and help and help.
Because I don't know if it's you, but because I get so worried about failing them, I become what I'm scared they think I am.
Yes.
I build up this ability, like, well, they probably think I'm selfish. Well, F them though, because how would I do this? And this poor guy doesn't even know what I'm going through.
Right.
And then I meet him and I'm like, you know what, dude, I'm done. And he's like, yo, chill, bro. You could have just said like one thing. And I think it's because we love them so much. Yeah. We sit there and we fear the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so you have this freeing. What's the obstacle behind it though?
The obstacle behind what specifically?
Yeah, like have you lost any people that you love during this type of transition?
No, I've created boundaries with people, and I don't have certain relationships anymore. But they weren't really great friendships, anyways. It was more like I was pleasing people. It feels incredible, man. Because all I need is like 4 or 5 good friends, really. Yeah. And my wife and my family. It's like where before I used to want to be friends with everyone. Yeah. And because unlike you, I didn't have friends growing up, and I wanted friends. You were just like, okay, whatever, I can be happy on my own. Yeah. I was just like, oh, I don't have any friends. I don't want to feel alone. And I had to go through a journey also of learning to love myself. Being alone. I used to take myself out on dates. I used to go to movies alone because I was so afraid to be alone.
Really?
So in my 20s, I started doing that by experimenting with how can I just fully love myself on my own if no one likes me? And it was an amazing exercise for me. It was so awkward originally, like going to the movies alone and eating popcorn by yourself, worrying about what people thought about me, going to dinner alone and taking myself on a date. As weird as that sounds, it was so empowering to do these exercises to encourage myself that you're okay by yourself. You don't need other people to like you.
Are you planning on having any kids?
That's my intention, God willing.
So what would you do with your kids that are going through this journey of like making friends, and how would you try to, we see children as like empty cups. What's the first ingredient you would pour into him before you try to even tackle these type of obstacles?
For me, I would lean more on Martha because she has just incredible values, and she's been raised in a certain way that I think is the best way to be raised by her parents. But for me, I would instill values of self-love and love of God, and making sure that you can create boundaries with people. Yeah. You can fully give your heart to someone, but you can discern if someone is trying to take advantage of you or if they're not matching your values and in alignment. And, that's a journey I haven't been on yet, so I'm not sure how I would do it.
So how do you have those tough conversations?
With Martha, with my wife, early on, I don't know about you guys. Did you guys have relationships before you met each other? Like
Only toxic ones.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
No, none of them are good.
Not a healthy relationship, right?
Yeah.
And I had 5 or 6 kind of long-term, 1 to 2 year, 3 year relationships from my, early 20s until I met Martha. And none of them ended well. And they all ended in therapy. And so when I met Martha, I said, listen, I'm going to do things completely different. We're not going to be intimate sexually until a certain period of time. I want to really get to know you. And also, if we get committed in a committed relationship in our dating phase, I want to go to therapy in the beginning.
My man put the ball in his court immediately. He goes, you ain't getting none of this until you sit down with me.
It's true, though, because I was sick of creating chemical connection with people without having values conversations, without really getting to know their heart and making sure that we were in alignment and had agreements. And so early on, I was talking about money conversations. We were talking about kids. We were talking about marriage. We were talking about whatever. And for me, I was afraid to have those conversations because I wanted to have fun in relationships, and I didn't want it to feel too serious. But this time, I was just like, I'm tired of living in pain of all these past relationships, because if we don't have the priorities conversations, the value conversations early on, we're going to have fun and then have pain at some point in the relationship because we're not in alignment.
You know what you're spitting to me is very old school mentality when people had class and integrity for themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like women weren't just putting themselves on the map like that, and men weren't out there disrespecting women, thinking that they could just grab whatever they want and leave. So bringing that old school mentality, I feel like America's rebuilding that old school history of like, hey, why don't we get to know each other? You're beating the flesh first.
Yes.
And then you're putting your mind on the table and being like, okay, do we get along here? And then now we could get to the physical. Not to try to be disrespectful, just from a learning curve. Was the physical way better after you got like the whole mental state? Did you feel safer?
I was definitely safer and more spiritual. So I don't know, toxic can feel really good.
Yeah. Oh God.
It can
People
feel
are
chemical.
addicted to it.
Yeah, it's like it can feel great, but it
Yeah.
doesn't have a spiritual connection.
Yeah.
And so, if I think back to my 20s or whatever, like that toxic sexual energy chemistry felt so high, felt so extreme. And I've never been drunk or high in my life. I've never, I don't drink. I've never been drunk. I've never smoked, all that stuff.
Good
so
for
I don't
you.
know what being drunk or high feels like or on drugs feels like. But I know that toxic energy, that kind of chemical energy of sexual connection, and it is a rush.
Yeah.
And this is a different type of spiritual connection that I've never felt before.
Yeah.
So it's just different.
I want to know if this is kind of broke down the right way, because I was thinking about this the other day. That toxic behavior that a man and woman have. For example, if I was in a toxic relationship with Belle, we would fight and then I would try to work for her back. And then it would feel good.
No,
and
I don't
then
do
we'd
that
fight
anymore.
and then we'd try to work for each other
I
back.
don't play those games. I don't play those games anymore.
Yeah, but this is what I thought.
Yeah,
If men didn't put that energy into fighting for her
I know.
back, they would just be
No.
fighting for a foundation for the family. They just need to put their energy in fighting for something in a different perspective.
Yeah, and I just call that having extreme courage, like you talked about, Bella, in having courageous conversations anytime you feel like something's off, as opposed to giving the silent treatment or, saying I need my space or getting angry at them for no reason without communicating. It's like having the courage to speak what's on my heart and what's on my mind right now so we can get back into agreement. And most people have disagreements because they don't have agreements in place. And it's so hard to create those agreements if you never have the courage to speak up early on. Because we don't want to ruffle feathers, George, right? We don't want to, we just want to have fun. Yeah. Hey, you're amazing. I'm amazing. Let's not have the hard conversations in relationship. Let's just love each other and have fun. It's romantic. It's the early days or whatever. But man, we probably had more challenging conversations in the first 6 months. Not because something was wrong. Yeah. Everything was great. But I was like, I don't want it to get in a place of sadness or frustration in years. And it doesn't mean it's always going to be perfect or we're not going to have challenge. But I want to set a foundation of agreement setting. When we create agreements, we have less arguments.
Yeah, man.
That's it.
Yeah.
And it's because we are in agreement of our values and our roles.
100%.
Yeah.
And when we are out of alignment with those agreements of our roles, then there's going to be friction and frustration. And I just don't want that. I want peace.
Yeah.
I never had peace in any relationship.
Do you feel like the man should be leading, or do you feel like it's an equal type of leadership?
I feel like I'll speak for myself. I feel like I needed to know exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I think if a man is going to enter a relationship with a woman, he should be clear on what he wants, what his vision is.
Yeah.
He should not get into a relationship just for sex and fun. And that's something that I did many times. And that caused a lot of pain and stress and sadness for me and the people that I was with. Because I never intended to be with someone to get married. Maybe it was like, yeah, maybe if it all works out, but it wasn't like I'm dating this person to then get married one day. I was afraid of marriage because my parents were always stressed out when they were married, they got divorced, and I didn't want it to end up like them where they both were trapped. So I wanted intimacy and connection, but I didn't want to get married where you felt like you couldn't be your authentic self and you were going to be trapped. So I was always kind of like, I wasn't a great leader in relationships before. And I had to learn how to be very clear on what I want.
Yeah.
What is my mission? What are my values? What do I want in a relationship? And ultimately, what is the role that I want to play? You're talking about character. What character do you want to play? And I was clear on my role entering my relationship with Martha. And I was like, I'm not playing this 50-50 game that people in America talk about today, this kind of modern relationship stuff. For me, that doesn't work for me. I am going to be 100% my role, and I want you to be 100% your role. If you align with this vision, you have to have a similar vision, and you have to want to be the role that I'm looking for. Otherwise, all the best to you. You're going to find a great guy, and you'll figure it out with another guy.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to step into anything else that isn't fully me ever again. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to step up when I need to and help out on things when I need to.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm going to be fully me as opposed to trying to please someone constantly.
Amen. I think people confuse the leadership role as if it's not a serving role.
Mm-hmm.
I think when it comes to it, it's like, who's the first one to serve?
Yes.
And when I was with my wife, when we first started dating, she put me in that leadership role.
Did you want to take it?
You know what? I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
But I just saw what it did when I wasn't responsible with my role.
What happened?
Whatever I was going through, she was going through. So when I was weak, she was weak. When I was strong, she was strong. When I was courteous to her, the same way that I want God to be merciful on me. So there was these roles that we learned, and we threw the ego out of it. I wasn't like, stay in the kitchen. That's stupid. But when my wife gives me a nice warm meal, it makes me want to go out into the world and work heavy, so I could bring to her feet everything that her heart desires. When we serve each other, we could best become the best role we can.
Yes.
I didn't walk into this wanting to be a leader, but she loved me so much and gave me the ability to place my role that I developed this leadership. So like, I want to now take the time to understand you and Martha, because behind every good man is a strong woman.
Yeah.
And I believe that the foundation of a home is a woman. What are the characteristics that your wife brings to you that makes Lewis the man to go on stage and talk to all these men?
And I know this is a saying, but I would never say that Martha's behind me, even though I understand the saying. It's like next to every great man is a great woman, I think. And we are really side by side in our union. What was the question? What makes her you?
Yeah, what is it that she brings to the table that sharpens you as the person you are?
Oh my gosh, she is she won't let me get away without being spiritual first.
I love that.
And I think I would say I'm a pretty spiritual person. But gosh, man, it's the temptations of life, man, just like will creep up at all times. And I think having a marriage and a union is a blessing because it's a constant reminder of like, stop looking that way, focus this way. What's your mission? Stay focused on the mission, as opposed to getting distracted. When we're single guys, it's just like, what do we want to do? Anything today, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to look at, it's like more loosey-goosey.
Yeah.
Whereas I really feel like I have to focus my energy on the union, on our relationship, and on what my mission is of this season of life. And that is to serve people at the highest level, my community. And that is to build our family together and hopefully one day have kids and be a great leader to our family. That's it.
Did you guys, in the beginning of your relationship, pray together?
Not consistently, but some of it, yes. And we kind of met like in the middle of the pandemic or whatever, so it was interesting times. But we went to therapy together almost every other week.
Let's talk about
I look at that
therapy.
as like a form of prayer because you're having the challenging conversations and resolving challenges and creating agreements and alignment. And for me, I think prayer is about creating wholeness within yourself and wholeness within a situation or a moment where you feel stuck, broken, sad, confused, uncertain, and you want to create certainty and wholeness, whether it's thought, your heart, your relationship, your business, whatever it might be. And so for me, it was like, I want to feel peace and free. And for me, therapy was a format where we could go and have hour-long, we did a 7-hour session one time on a Saturday, not because something was wrong. Again, this was all to create a foundation that could flourish or to figure out, are we not right for each other? Like, let's get out of this quickly if we're not a right fit. So I just didn't want to delay or distract myself by saying, oh, let's keep it light and fun for a few years and then we'll figure it out. It was like, no, let's get clear if we should try to make this work or continue on this journey, or like, I don't want to hold you back or make you feel like you're not, we're not in the right place together. And I want you to be happy with someone that you're happy with. So for me, it was the most powerful thing I've ever done, starting a relationship in therapy.
I want to learn a little bit about therapy. So there's two different outlooks on therapy. There's some people that are like, love therapy. It is, there's a lot of people in this room that like are very for therapy. And then there's some people that are like, I don't know if I get down with therapy because I feel like you're just reliving these harsh moments.
Yeah.
For somebody who is not only loving, but preaching it, what are the aspects that you love that therapy brings to the table?
Well, I think there is something to reliving old wounds over and over again and putting you back in that state of sadness. I don't think it's good to go to therapy just to talk about wounds constantly. I think it's important that if you feel triggered, if I poke you psychologically or emotionally or physically and it still hurts, that just means there's something there to take care of and you haven't mended that wound. Why do you get triggered, or if you feel like someone's taking advantage of you? Or for me, I was sexually abused when I was 5 by a man that I didn't know. And for 25 years, I didn't tell a soul because I was so afraid if anyone knew, no one would love me and no one would think I'm man enough if they knew that I was sexually abused by a man.
I'm sorry you dealt with that.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's been I started opening up about it 12 years ago, and I've shared about it many times, and I feel like I can talk about it very calmly and peacefully. It doesn't hurt me anymore because I did therapy.
Awesome.
And that's a beautiful thing, where I don't want anything to have power over me where there was once maybe a wound. I just don't want to feel insecure. So I want to go through the pain, heal the pain, and then overcome the pain. And I think therapy is just one avenue, one tool. You can have a priest, you can talk to a pastor, you can have a coach, you can have friends, you can have whatever.
A form of confession.
I think it's a form of confession, but it's more than that for me because in all context, you got to have the right person that's right for you at the right season.
That's what I want to get into, because there might be somebody listening to you right now that the tough part about being in the situation that you were in, it's if you can't talk to anybody about it, it's how do you even get to the solution?
You can't.
So how did you do it?
I was a prisoner for 25 years in my own heart, my own mind, because I didn't have anyone to talk to. Now, I probably did have someone to talk to. I didn't think I had anyone to talk to about it. And I didn't have the tools on how to open up about it. I didn't think I could tell my parents, my siblings. I'm the youngest of 4. I didn't think I could tell my sports friends. We're having I used to be a very affectionate kid, and I'd put my arm around guys and they'd be like, get off me, don't be gay. So it's like I couldn't even just put my arm around a friend without them calling a name. So it's like, oh, if they knew someone sexually abused me, how are they going to handle it? So you got to find the right person who's ready to receive this information. And it wasn't until this time when I was 30 when I started opening up about it, where I met a therapist, I started opening up about it, and it felt safe. And it was very scary, but it felt like a safe person to talk to. And for me, it's about being able to process or confess these pains, these wounds, these sadness. But you need more than a confession. You need to be, it's not just like if I spoke about it, I'm healed and it's all good. I needed psychological, emotional, and physical exercises to integrate healing into my nervous system, into my body, into my mind, into my psyche. And I needed to recreate experiences in the real world where I could make myself feel safe again, where I could make myself feel whole and feel loved again, because I didn't feel loved. That doesn't happen in one confession or like over, maybe for someone, but for me it didn't.
It takes practice.
It took practice. And the more I was able to speak about it and process it and then integrate it into my real life, the more I got more confident being able to share about it and just not feeling ashamed of it, being able to forgive myself, forgive others, and integrate a peaceful, whole nervous system. And that's the thing that gave me a lot of peace. So a lot of people will say, well, therapy doesn't work because you just relive old wounds and you never get better. And that can be true for some people. And that's why you need to take responsibility as the person wanting to improve and say, how can I process these old pains and then keep elevating myself to get better? So I go to coaching or therapy now, not to process old wounds, but to say, what do I need to look out for in the future? A lot of the things I do with my coach now is, what are your clients who are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, the men who've made millions and billions, who have, been married and have 3 to 5 kids? What are their biggest problems? I want to know what my future self is going to struggle with.
Wow.
And most of them, they get famous, they make the money, they get tired in their relationships or their marriages, and they cheat.
Yeah.
And then they break their lives because of this. And so I'm thinking, okay, how do I continue to elevate my mind, my heart, and my spiritual life to stay focused on my mission, to stay focused on my relationship, my marriage, to continue to improve my heart? And so I'm thinking of prevention now. It's not like I need to overcome something in my past. And healing is a journey, so it's not like it stops at one point. It's got to continue to evolve when we hit new levels of life. But it's really about thinking of the future and what I need to prevent. We go to the gym to stay strong, to prevent injury. We eat nutritiously so we don't get sick. But a lot of people don't think about emotional, spiritual, or psychological prevention. And I just think if you find the right therapist or coach, that can be a tool to benefit you.
You were really building yourself up for success. Like you were like, I'm going to have these people on. How can I have the most beautiful future? I want to stop and like be able to handle hurt or anything that might come your way. I think it's
100%. Yeah. And when you feel stuck or trapped or insecure or frustrated or uncertain about life, you just want to get over that pain and that sadness, and you want to create certainty. Once you have more certainty and you feel more at peace within yourself, I'm thinking of, I don't want to disappoint or let down my future self. That's where I'm at now. I want to be the best version of me now, so that in 5, 7, 10 years, my future self says, thank you for taking care of us. Thank you for thinking of me at 50. Thank you for thinking of me at 65. You did the hard thing back when you were 41, 42. You ate clean, you slept well, you trained hard, you had the hard conversations, so we don't get to this place of breakdown later. So I'm just thinking of prevention in the future.
That's honestly one of the most powerful things I've ever heard a man say. And recently my cousin was sitting next to me and he said, you were the only one who worried about his future. And I think I realized why. When I was younger, I didn't have friends, like I was telling you, but my mom and dad were the best parents ever. And so how they made me feel was so safe. So everything I did was in planning for my future kids. Like I wanted to be like my parents so bad.
That's cool.
That every decision, and honestly, even when I met Belle, there was a part of me where it was like, yo, you're young, you're successful, go have fun, don't settle down right now. And then the part of me was like, but what if your kids belong with a mother like this?
Oh, man.
And so I literally was like, all right, like, let me just think about this. And that just bit of sacrifice, which is a terrible word because what I came out of it is not even sacrifice. But in the time, the devil makes you think it's a sacrifice.
I know.
And then I just go, no, you know what? I think this is the better road. And a lot of people don't understand that life is all about reaping and sowing. But the reaping and sowing, it's not like the internet where you just get it right now.
No.
You're planning it for 10 years. So now you've gone from a life where you are healing your past and now you're preparing your future.
Yes.
All right, talk to me about preparing your future. I know you have a book coming out. What is this going to help them prepare for?
I don't know if you guys had money conversations when you started dating or before you got married. Did you ever have these like
Always.
money conversations? You did?
Yeah.
Was there anything that you realized you guys were different about with spending, saving, or had any wounds around money?
Yeah. I made it. She spent it.
That's not even true. I'm gonna need you to take that back.
Oh man.
For anyone that knows me knows that's not true.
No.
Okay?
Belle and I, no, this is the honest truth. Belle is the most kind, and like till this day, we're married, bro. We're married.
Yeah.
I'll take her to dinner. She goes, "Thank you." I go, "Belle, it's your
that's-
money. It's your money. This is our money. Stop
Yeah, but
thanking
she's never
me."
going to take it for granted, and that's a beautiful thing because
Beautiful
Martha
thing.
does that with me too. When I take her out to dinner, she always is appreciative and grateful.
Yeah.
And I think you never want to take someone for granted you're in a relationship with, even if it's your money.
Yeah.
It's like you never want to expect anything ever. That loses the love, the intimacy, and the value that you've created with one another. And if someone feels like they're not valuable anymore and they're just expected, of course he's going to pay for me, of course she's going to do this for me, you lose value in one another and you depreciate in value. That's why it's so important to express gratitude daily, because gratitude and generosity is the gateway to abundance. It's the great gateway to more peace, more love, more freedom. And if you forget to do that on a daily basis with your relationship, you start to depreciate in value. And for me, again, a relationship is not like we had this great foundation in the great first couple of years and so we're set. It's something we got to do every single day to invest in one another. And divorces and marriages, one of the biggest things that causes arguments and disagreements and pain are money conversations or disagreements around money. That's why everything comes back to agreements. Yeah. Because you might have a certain style around money and you might have a different style. And one style may trigger you or make you feel not safe. Let's just say you were like spending all the time and you never looked at money and you were always paying on credit cards and you had tons of debt. It might make Belle feel insecure that you're not making her feel safe because she grew up in a different way. I'm just making this up.
But by the way, that's a very, very logical thing.
Yeah.
What you're saying is the hard truth that men don't want to speak about. Money is a security. It shouldn't be your God, but it's a tool. And if you don't use that tool properly, you could hurt each other with it.
Exactly. And I'll just give you guys both an example right now, an exercise. Let's say money was a person. Imagine money as a person. And that person walked up the stairs right now and walked in the room. Belle, how would it make you feel? What would you think about initially? How would it make you feel in your chest? If money, the idea of money, walked in the room right now and stood right in front of you?
That's such an interesting question. I don't know. It's just money. Like, I think the way that I view money, I think it's, I think I really value it and appreciate it because I think that it's something that you don't always get. It's not an always easy thing to get. So it's important to know like its value, and not take advantage of it. But then also too, you can't let it rule your life. Mm-hmm. Like I wouldn't want this person to be the only thing I think about, that's always in my way, that's always the burden that's over my head. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I would want to have a healthy relationship with money, with the person. You know what I mean?
That's beautiful. What about you? Money walked in the door and was standing right here.
Yeah.
How would it make you think or feel about money?
I would immediately know that it's a friend of God, and I have to treat it with respect, and that it's not mine.
That's beautiful.
And so, like my relationship with her is, I sat down. I said, "Hey, this is what God gave us. It's not ours. This is a tool that He loaned us. And the more responsible we're with money, the more that money could bring Him and His friends." But the more we disrespect money and treat it like it's not valuable, or if we become greedy with it, God will remove His friend away from us. So I believe
that's beautiful.
That's how I see it.
This is a beautiful relationship you guys have with money. I asked a friend of mine who's in their late 20s, I asked him this question. I said, you're at a restaurant, money walks in the door. What would you do? And they said, I would go right to the bar and hide from money. And then I would start, wait for this. This gets good. Then I would talk about money behind its back to other people at the bar. Then if money came up to me, I would act like I was its friend and be nice to it. Then I would use and abuse it when I needed money, and then I would ghost it if it ever texted me and wanted to talk to me.
Well, it's very honest.
And I was like, that is an honest response, but it's a real response that some people have where they have a very unhealthy relationship with money, And it's not their fault necessarily. It's just they haven't been educated on how to have a healthy relationship with money. We don't think of money as a relationship, as if it was a person coming in the room. We don't think of it that way. But imagine your best friend. If you treated your best friend where you ghosted them, you used them, you abused them, you gossiped about them, how would that make your friend feel? And you guys had a beautiful response to if money walked in the door. You would respect it. You would value it. You would not make it your God and chase after it. You would let it come and go, and you would appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why money comes to you. It's like, oh, I'm a friend to you guys. I'll come to you more freely. And you also know that it can be challenging sometimes to earn or make. So you've got to work hard at some point to develop skills so that money values you as well. And that relationship you guys have with it sounds like a beautiful one. And so you guys are in alignment on your individual relationship with money as well.
Woohoo!
At least
Just like we practiced.
At least in this first conversation. But that doesn't mean that, Belle, you might have, is it Belle or Bella? Is it?
So her nickname is Belle. Her real name is Shawna.
Yeah, Shawna. But is
So
it Belle or
Belle.
Bella?
Whatever
Belle,
you want.
Belle.
Yeah.
And but let me ask you this question. There might be wounds around money that both of you have that you're not even really aware of. And doesn't mean it has to be some extreme wound. But let's say, Shawna, if a friend of yours gives you a small gift, maybe a $50 in value of some type of gift, how would that make you feel if a friend just gave you $50 of a gift?
Amazing. I think anything that comes from my friend, I think is beautiful.
Okay.
Doesn't really matter.
What if
price.
someone gave you a $50,000 gift? How would it make you feel?
A little uncomfortable.
Okay. Why?
Because that's so much.
Is it?
It is. It'd be so, I don't know. For me,
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I don't even know. I think the only I don't know who could even give me that big of a gift. I'd be very uncomfortable with it.
Okay. It's nothing. This is a great observation. You don't have to look at this as right or wrong, good or bad. It's just to observe, how would I respond if money came to me?
Yeah.
If a penny came to me, if $50,000 came to me in a gift, would I be okay receiving it? I have a very well-known friend of mine who's like, I don't have any money wounds. I've mastered money. And I go, what if someone gives you a gift, like a really nice gift? And she was like, well, the only thing is if my husband gives me a gift that's expensive and I don't like it, it triggers me because I wanted him to give me a gift, but also something that I wanted. And so I don't know how to react to him. And so it still triggers me because she doesn't know how to receive well from people giving her gifts.
Right.
And so it's just something to notice. And it doesn't mean this is right or wrong, good or bad, but you were like, I love it if someone gives me a $50 gift, but a $50,000 gift, man, that'd make me feel a little anxious or a little worried, or I'm not really sure about myself. And it's just notice, if we want to create more abundance in our life, we have to get comfortable with receiving more. We have to get comfortable with being able to steward more, right? It's not our money, but it's ours for a period of time. And if we feel uncomfortable, if we're like, I don't know if I could take that in. I'm not saying this is you, but if like, I don't know if I could take that in, then why would money want to come through the door and come to you at that amount?
Right.
So it's just thinking about how can I raise my energy level to receive more and feel emotionally comfortable and safe with that amount of money. You said $50, yeah, amazing. 50,000? I don't know. Like you're putting this avoidant energy around it. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong, good or bad. It's just something to notice. So what about you? What if someone gave you a gift? What are you going to say?
So this is my sister right here. That's why she's already tucking her head. Jess,
I see her.
Jess, come here real quick. Could you hand me my Celsius, the blue one, please? Not that I'm plugging, but sponsored by Celsius. So Jessica...
Did you buy her a $50,000 car? Is that what's about?
No,
Okay.
I would never be putting my gifts out. I would never. No, I would never do that.
I couldn't receive
Let's
it.
stop being
Just notice.
ridiculous now.
Just notice what your sister said.
What?
It's your sister, right?
Yeah,
Jessie?
Yeah.
I just said, oh, did you get her a $50,000 car? She goes, I couldn't receive that.
No, this is why she's saying this. This is the thing in her life right
but
now.
notice this, though. The first thing she said, I couldn't receive that. Maybe it's because of you, but just notice. I'm not saying this is right or wrong here, Jesse, but if you're saying I couldn't receive that, what can you receive?
This is what I was just about to tell you. Jessica will literally sit here in your face and look. My dad looked at me the other day, he goes, you little shit. She's learning too much from you. Are you damn serious? And I was like, what happened? He goes, not every time I offer her something, she takes it. Before she would never take it. Now she's taking it. I used to always teach her, I go, Jessica, accept.
Yes.
Accept
Receive.
it. If somebody's willing to offer always be willing to accept it. Now, mind you, not going and freeloading off of people, but don't ever be afraid of help and receiving.
Yes.
Because then what you're now being in contrast to giving. If somebody's able to give, are you not ready to give to others? And then also, if others are ready to give to you, are you not ready to receive? You break the flow and the transaction of it.
100%.
I believe in taking, and only if it's actually given with a full, sincere heart. If it is, it could be $5 million. I'll
receive that.
Thank you. And you know what I'll think of? How do I reciprocate? How can I be? Let me give you an example. Patrick Bet-David may have not given me money, but he gave me access. When he introduced me to Andrew Tate, it took my podcast off to another level. Now, I could have easily been like, no, please, it's too much. Or I could have been wise and been like, thank you. And then immediately think, okay, one day I'm going to be in Patrick Bet-David's shoes, and there's going to be another George that comes in. And what do? I pass the baton right back.
Yes.
And that's how I see things.
See,
yeah.
I was gonna say before, like, he's taught me a lot about money because, like, as I responded to you, I was like uncomfortable with that. Like, I don't know. It must be your parents, but the way that he looks at money is always very practical, and he doesn't like die for it. He doesn't chase after it, and he's very, very giving with it. So he's never uncomfortable with like making sure that everyone around him has everything that they need.
That's beautiful.
And then that's why I feel like he's so comfortable also with like asking for help and taking in with anything that's around him and having access to that.
That's beautiful.
He's very smart with it.
Let me ask you this, George. Do you ever feel taken advantage of by people asking you for money?
The same way that I know I take advantage of God. So I just forgive it.
So you do feel it sometimes?
Yeah, of course. But I also take advantage of my God. I've also taken advantage of my sister. I've also taken advantage of my wife. I think when people take advantage, it's not from a greedy standpoint. It's from a lack of strength. So I don't look at it in a way where I'm like, yo, I need to teach this guy a lesson not to do that. I pray about it, and then it's my job to learn how to put the boundaries in the level of respect.
So you create boundaries afterwards.
Yeah.
You might feel, I felt resentful, or felt like they did something to take advantage, or that didn't feel right for me. But you don't get too upset for that long. You don't let it bother you for long. You forgive, you understand it, and you create boundaries.
Yeah.
I think that's the key. Most people don't create boundaries. I never learned how to create boundaries because I was afraid of hurting people, of what they thought about me.
You're generous.
So I just wanted to keep giving, and then I was living in resentment all the time.
Yeah.
And it was frustration. So I had to learn how to create boundaries everywhere and realize like I can love someone fully and love myself and not resent myself.
Yeah.
So that's key. That's cool. What about, and so you guys, it sounds like you have good alignment around money.
Well, we're one under a covenant with God under marriage. I like, again, when I said the leadership thing, I don't mean just whatever I say go. We as partners, we're equally yoked. We sit and we talk about it. We discuss things. All of the good things that people compliment me are off of the talents that she like helped me grow. But everything we do, we think of it as one. So when it comes to money, this is our money. If this is our home, this is our home. I just got a brand new car. It's our car.
Yes.
It's never like, I tell her, don't separate us. Once you separate us, you're giving the devil room to leverage it. If she says, oh, can I use your car? No, it's not my car. It's your car. Could you use your car? Yes. Thank you for asking. Go take your car. I just don't like putting titles of ownership on it because now you're separating already what is mine and yours.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
It's super powerful.
Did you guys have any conflict around money early on? Did you have any disagreements or arguments?
No, I mean, I think I just got really blessed because, I don't know, like George made it really easy for me personally. He never made me feel uncomfortable. And I think that that's something like if any husband could like take from this is that when you complain, like if he never complains about money, makes me feel uncomfortable about it, or says like, makes it such a negative, dreary conversation. He's just very smart about it, very open. Like, okay, this is what we got going on. This is how we want to move forward. This is like he talks about everything that we have going on together. So like, this is where I'm at with things. This is what I'm saving. This is how much we should be spending or not spending. This is, you know what I mean? So it's always very comfortable.
That's beautiful. And you don't stress it. You don't speak bad about money or have stressful conversations around it.
No, because then that would make it my God. I don't worship it.
That's beautiful.
But the one thing I want to highlight about Belle, which she doesn't highlight about herself, is now I'm young, I'm successful, and I just started dating a beautiful model. Like legit, I would walk into Walgreens and there would be campaign pictures of her. Now, this girl in the world that we live in is like, what can I buy her to make her feel like we're valuable? And I remember when we first dated the first year, I sat her down. I go, I see myself being with you for the rest of my life. If you trust me, and I can't buy you the purses now. I can't buy you the jewelry now. But if you trust me, One day when we sit at a dining table, we'll eat the best food with the best company and you'll never worry about it. But you have to trust me now. And I think it was our 6th year in, we bought our dream house, everything from groceries to any purse she wants. And I told her, I go, this was all because you were patient with me and you loved me and you weren't sitting here worrying about the gifts. Now, money, I've learned from my mentor, there's 3 G's the devil uses to destroy you: gold, glory, girls. Girls, I don't have any problem because I have the best one in the world.
Great.
Glory, I give it all to my God. And then the gold, I don't see it as if it's mine. Like, she's only with me because of that. No, it's God gave this to me. So I really sit down and I say, hey, what could we do? I think the forms that I look at money is give, save, spend. And so I don't mind spending on us, but as long as we've helped our neighbors first, given it to God, and then when we sit and we have a good foundation, I like to know that I could have a dinner every day of my life. So instead of us going and getting luxurious things that like next year is not even cool because it's not new anymore,
Right.
I'd rather know that you and I could go to dinner, or I could take her to Italy, or I could take her anywhere and we sit down and have a meal. My idea of rich is never looking at the bill when the dinner table is being set.
100%.
That is my version of rich.
Yeah, that's a rich life.
That's how we look at money.
That's beautiful, man. And for me, when I was getting and started dating Martha, one of the things people always ask me, like, when did you know, like, she was the one for you? Like, she was going to be your wife? And there was never like a moment. It was more of a feeling over time where I felt emotionally safe. And she never asked for expensive things.
Yeah.
And she was always grateful and appreciative. This is a woman who's done, again, 40 movies. She's we can't walk in Mexico without people stopping her constantly. And she's had, she's got lots of money herself, and hotels and condos, and she's got it all. But she was never demanding me to like give to her more in terms of financial stuff. She wasn't like, buy me a car and buy me jewelry and buy me back. She never said that stuff. She was grateful with my spirit and my energy and my love.
Yeah.
And she appreciated that. And whenever I'd buy her things, she was grateful for that as well, which her not demanding has made me want to give her more and more and more.
Dude,
It's like
right?
I give her more than I've ever given, all the people in my life before.
Bro, when you're
combined.
grateful,
Yeah.
you deserve more. Like, I tell her this all the time. I go, I just want to go run and grab you the best things, versus somebody who is expecting
No,
it.
it's the worst.
It is the worst. But also, it makes you reflect us with God. I know I
Yes.
always bring it back to, but it's kind of like, how do you expect to get more from God when you're treating what he already gave you like crap? So it really puts a huge perspective on it. I remember when I was in LA and I was complaining about an apartment that I had, and my mom and dad were paying for it. I was 21 years old. They're paying for this small apartment. And I was like, Mom, this is crap. This place looks ugly as hell. And she looked at me. She goes, dude, what happened to you? She goes, do you not thank God that you're even there?
Wow.
And I changed my mind. And I every day would clean the floors and thank God for it.
Wow.
Not even a few months later, I was able to go and afford another apartment.
Wow.
So it taught me, it's like, don't disrespect what God already gave you now. And that comes with your relationships. A lot of people walk on people they love because they're comfortable. But that's so bad. You should really, really cherish them even more.
Yeah, I think, again, gratitude and generosity is the gateway to abundance and a gateway to a rich life.
Amen.
And it doesn't mean you have to invest money in certain things to feel rich. But we invest in each other. And again, I'm talking about investing. It's like you can invest words, time, attention, resources, presence, your generosity in terms of your acts of service. But by that type of investment, it flourishes the relationship and makes it richer.
Yeah, it's the foundation. So you're telling me you're making this book to teach a relationship or a household, hey, be careful with what you're doing with your foundation.
Yes.
Like, you treat it with respect.
Yeah, this book is not about how to make money necessarily, actually. It's not an investing or saving book. It's about mindset. It's about healing your relationship to money so you can feel richer.
How did you come up with this situation? Because is it deal with any of the trauma that you expressed?
100%, yeah. One of the things in the book I talk about is writing down your money wounds. When I was a kid, our money story shapes our money personality style. And you know this, that our beliefs, what we think about, how we think, our beliefs influence our behaviors, how we act. So if we have a money story that is the way we think, that money doesn't grow on trees, or money is stressful, or my parents fought about money all the time, or whatever your story is that becomes your belief. And therefore you act or react in a negative way around money. You might be insecure, you might be anxious or avoidant around money because of your story and your beliefs.
I never know how deep this was. Wow.
It's very deep. So when I was a kid, I share a few stories in the book. When I was a kid, I felt very insecure. I didn't have a lot of friends. And there was a time when I was, my brother had went to prison when I was 8 years old. For 4.5 years, he was in prison. And growing up in a small town in the middle of Ohio, I didn't know anyone that went to prison. So it was just like, it was weird, right, that this happened. He was 11 years older than me. He was 19. He sold drugs to an undercover cop when he was in college. Whoa. And in the 90s, it was the war against drugs. So it was 6 to 25 years sentence, minimum. Wow. He got out in 4.5 on good behavior. Now I'm 8 years old. It's confusing. What's happening? They're not telling me the whole story. My parents are devastated. I'm the youngest of 4 kids.
Did your parents know?
They knew when he got caught.
No, but did they have a hunch that he was onto this stuff?
He had some challenges for sure, but I don't think they knew he was like doing that. And he wasn't like a drug dealer. He was just like doing weed, and then it was a setup. It was his first time. He was just like buying weed from friends in school, but then it was a setup. Someone asked him, "Hey, can you get me some LSD?" He was like, "No," and he kept pushing and pushing. And he's like, "Well, let me ask the guy I get a little weed from." And so it was a whole setup. It was an undercover cop situation. It was messed up. Anyways,
poor guy.
He went. Yeah, it was devastating. It was really devastating. He's gone on and had a beautiful life. He got out in good behavior. He's gone on to serve at the highest level. It's actually an amazing story. But I was 8 when this happened, and so my parents didn't have a lot of money at the time. We were, lower middle class suburbs in Ohio, and my parents worked hard to make the money. And a lot of this money that they had went towards legal fees and just trying to deal with this process, let alone the devastation of their son going to prison and trying to manage 3 other kids and the stresses of life.
Yeah.
So at this time, I really didn't have any friends because everyone in the neighborhood knew that my brother went to prison, and the parents didn't want the younger kids hanging out with me, right? Yeah. So there was a time where 2 kids started a club, like in their parents' basement. Like after school, they started like a little club. And I was like, I really want to be in the club. And they said, okay, you can either answer questions to get in and see if you get them right, or pay $5. I didn't have any money, so I was like, okay, what's the questions? They asked me the questions. I didn't know the answer. So they said, you have to pay $5 to join our club. So I go home to my mom and I say, Mom, I need $5 to join this club to be friends with these kids. And she kind of looks at me sad, probably because she knew I didn't have any friends, but also because she didn't have the money. So she said, okay, let's go on a scavenger hunt. Go to the couch, flip over the cushions, and see if we can get some change. So she made it a game for me. We spend the next hour finding in closets and couches change. So she gives me a shoebox and puts change of $5 in the shoebox. I walk it back to these kids' house, and I say, okay, can I be in the club now? They say yes. For the next hour, we're sitting in the basement, but they're doing their thing by themselves, and I'm just still by myself in the corner. So I spent money to have friends, and they still don't want to be friends with me. So it's just like, that's a money wound. That is one memory.
That's my wound now. What do you?
Yeah, it's sad, right?
What do you mean?
But
Yeah, like, dude. What did you just do to me?
I know. It's just it's a story that becomes a wound of multiple stories that build. There then became a time where I wanted to get attention. So when I was like 10 to 11 and a half, I started stealing at stores. So I became a taker and stealing and being out of integrity. I would steal candy bars and cigarettes just to steal them, to feel powerful because I felt powerless. And I wanted attention from other people to see what I could do. So then I was hurting other people. Other people were hurting me. These are these money wounds that build a belief system. And again, our beliefs influence our behaviors. And so until I'm able to take myself to money therapy and start to mend these old stories and old wounds and create meaning from them and forgive myself, forgive others, I'm not going to feel whole until I do that. So this is just a process and a journey. Again, this is more about understanding that money is energy. And if your thoughts and feelings around that energy are scarce, are fearful, are triggering, are wounded, then you're probably not going to have a healthy relationship with money the way both of you guys have. And therefore, when money comes to you, you might feel anxious. You might feel, I need to hoard this and put it in the bank, and I can't put it anywhere.
Yeah.
And for years, I would make money. I got good at making money, and I would just save it. I was afraid to spend it. And again, it was based on these money wounds. And so you can have millions of dollars and still be miserable.
Yeah.
And in fact,
I mean, dude, we know a lot of people that are like that.
a lot of people. And
Because they think that's where their joy and peace comes from.
Man, inner peace is rich.
Yeah.
Not wealth.
Yep.
Inner peace is a
In
rich
fact,
life.
I've met way more happier people struggling than I've met happier people millionaires.
And it doesn't mean you have to struggle. And that's also a money belief or a money wound for people, that rich people are bad and angry or miserable.
Yeah.
And therefore, I don't want to have money because I don't want to be stressed out.
Yeah.
And that's a limiting belief also, that all wealthy people are takers and they did something wrong to make that money. So I don't want to be a bad person, so I'm going to stay poor.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have peace at poor.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's an abundant life either.
Me neither. I don't agree
And
with
I'm
that.
not saying you have to be a millionaire to feel abundant. I've been on my sister's couch for 1.5 years before I learned how to make money. And there were moments where I was like, man, I'm still living a fun life, learning things, overcoming challenges, even though I have no money and I'm in debt.
Yeah.
So I've been poor and miserable. I've been poor and fulfilled, partly. I've had money and been miserable, and I've had money and I've felt peace.
Where did you find the balance with money? When did you start like, okay, cool, now I'm healing my money wounds?
When I created boundaries with myself and others, because that's when I felt like I could fully give without feeling taken advantage of.
You healed the basement story.
A lot of the stories. That's
So-
just a few of them.
So
yeah.
it went from the basement to dinner tables or like gifts. And you're
Everything,
like,
yeah.
hey, enough of this.
Yeah, and I used to give,
Were you scared of losing people?
I was scared of people being upset with me if I didn't do what they wanted me to do.
Yeah.
And
That's tough, huh?
yeah, and again, it goes back to wounds of like feeling like not enough or whatever, not wanting to be alone or not wanting to disappoint people. And that's why I'm saying, like, Martha has she does such great job of creating boundaries that she taught me a lot of this early on, 3.5, 4 years ago. And so I've had to learn. Again, at new levels, we have new opportunities to grow and have courage to overcome things.
Yeah.
And so
Did Martha
that's
come
where
from a great family?
great family. Her parents have been married for 45 years. She's got 3 younger siblings. They go to mass every week. They're for like traditional Mexican family values, serve each other, elevate each other. It's a beautiful family relationship. And where I came from, more of a broken family.
Yeah.
Where my parents were fighting all the time. I knew they loved us, but they didn't love each other.
Oh, are they with each other now?
They're not. No, they got divorced when I was a teenager, and they probably should have been divorced before I was even born. It's like they were just never in a healthy relationship. So it always created fear and anxiety and stress at home. I didn't feel safe at home. And I never wanted to get married because I didn't want to feel like trapped like my parents. And so I left home when I was 13. I begged my parents to send me away to a private boarding school.
Really?
Begged them. They didn't want to send me away. Most kids get sent away because they're bad.
Right.
And I was like, I just want to get out of this home.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't feel emotionally safe. Now, both my parents individually loved me, and I felt their love. So I don't want to make them look bad, but they didn't know how to love each other. And that was stressful. So that became my model. My belief system was, this is marriage. That's all I saw.
So was there a friend's parents or someone that you were able to look to that you saw
Yes.
like that example?
Yeah, once I left home and I started seeing, coaches and teachers and mentors at this school, I started to see family dynamics in a different way. And I was like, oh, wow, there's different ways to go about this. And I really was angry at my parents for a long time because I felt like they didn't give us the tools. So I had to learn these tools later in life on that you can be safe in relationships. You can have a healthy relationship. But I had to learn a lot of painful lessons before then.
I was recently going through something that I looked at my sister and I said, oh, now I understand all of my past trauma because God was building me for this stage.
Wow.
Do you feel grateful that you've overcome your obstacles?
100%. I'm grateful for all of it. There's no way that I would be a man that wants to give and serve at the highest level without all that pain. There's no way. There's no way I'd care about
There's no
people.
will for it.
I just want to have a desire because I want to have a yearning to figure out how to heal myself and an understanding and a compassion for what other people are going through. And I think one of the gifts that God gave me, I was in the bottom 4 of my class every semester in school. and they used to grade us and like rank us on our report cards. So I was always at the bottom 4 of my class. And, you know, I used to cheat on everything I could just to survive, to get through school.
Yeah.
Any quiz, test, anyhow I could like get ahead.
Yeah.
Because I was dyslexic, so actually reading, I would spend hours reading a page and be like, I have no clue what this just said. So it was exhausting. It wasn't per effort.
It's literally the exact mirror of my life.
Yeah.
Did you ever have popcorn in your school?
Popcorn?
Yeah,
No.
where they would read a line and then popcorn, and then they would pick somebody. You know, till this day,
no,
I
they
hate the
used to-
word popcorn because of that.
Oh, no, but they used to have us read aloud in front of the class.
Yeah.
And, you know, I couldn't read basic words in front of the class, so I would just like go to the bathroom and try to get out of it anytime I could, man.
Dog, they gave me glasses.
Because you couldn't
I
read.
have 20/20 vision.
I know, yeah.
I have 20/20 vision.
Dude.
I was bumping into walls
Dude,
until one teacher was like, I'm not, this sounds like a joke, but this one teacher took it off and she put pictures in front of me. She goes, what's
Yeah,
that? I was
man.
like, koala. And she was
Wow.
like, what's that? I was like, giraffe. And then she's like, you could see.
Wow.
You're just really stupid. You
Yeah,
can't read.
that's how I felt, man.
Yeah.
I was in the special needs classes all through high school.
Bro,
Elementary
special ed.
school. Yeah, the whole time. When I went to 8th grade, I had a 2nd grade reading level. And so they had me do reading classes every day during recess and lunch. So I was always alone with a teacher trying to just pass class. I almost flunked out of English my senior year in high school because I couldn't do basic vocabulary. And my English teacher was like, you need to have a passing grade to get to college. We won't graduate you if you can't pass. So one of the gifts was not, you know, being a great student of school, but another gift, a gift that God did give me was the ability to see people deeply
Yep. Amen.
and to tap into people's hearts and understand people deeply. And it doesn't mean I'm like perfect at this, but it made me have a different type of vision and awareness.
Compassion.
And it was around survival because I didn't have friends. So I would just observe people all day long. And I got into sports and that became my outlet. And in sports, you need to have good awareness of your space within the entire field or court. So I could always see where the play was going to be, and I knew where someone else was going to be. And in life, I never knew this would all benefit me, but I can see someone's journey, and I can, if they tell me this is my vision or what I want to create, it's almost like I know exactly what to tell them to get them there.
Dude, I was just talking to Belle about this. You know what we're observing, you and I, is patterns. So like you could literally see the patterns folding out in front of you.
Yes.
And it's kind of like a movie where like I could spend like a second with you and I know exactly how you feel. I know where you come from. I know where you're going. It's because I've studied so many different outlets. Now, mind you, there is some people that are like different. So
Yeah,
it
of
changes.
course.
But I never thought about I grew this talent because I didn't have friends. When you were like, I was just observing others because I couldn't talk to them. I didn't know that's where I got the skill set
man.
from. You're absolutely right. I literally was just on the sidelines, just watching and learning from afar. That's such a
And you also learned human psychology at an extreme level with, you know, getting into content creation at an early age, understanding what makes people respond, react, laugh, get an emotion out of someone. Because content creation and going viral is all about creating an emotion and storytelling.
Yeah.
So you learned how to create suspense, set people up, hook people, get people to share. It's all about creating some type of story and emotion. And you probably learned that from childhood and lots of like action taking and reps that got you to be able to be good at it when you were in your early 20s and then become a master at it by understanding people as well. So you've combined two things. For me, it was like not having any friends, being in special ed, but also learning how to be great at sports. That gave me like a skill set to understand and read people and also learn how to be in groups and teams. And everything around sports was we have a goal for the season. The next 3 months, what's our goal, team? And then how do we accomplish our goal and break it down into daily, weekly actions? So for me,
Love this.
After sports was done for me, I was like, I need a coach. Why would I go about life without having a coach? Because coaches will guide you and give you feedback on how to accomplish your goals. I need a clear goal for a season of life. It can be 6 months, a year, 5 years, whatever. And I need a coach, a mentor with a model that I can mimic.
Amen.
Someone who, so that's what you asked about, like, have you seen parents or relationships that have done well? I started seeking out and interviewing married people who've been together for 20, 30, 40 years and saying, what's the secret?
Right.
here are mentors with a model that I can mimic. And now I need to start following this process for myself. So I became really good at asking dumb questions after school.
Yeah.
When in school, I used to get laughed at and made fun of. After school, I didn't realize it'd be a massive podcast by doing the same thing that people laughed at me early on. And I didn't think I could monetize my stupidity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like a combination of all these things have allowed me to be where I'm at.
You became the school of greatness.
That's it.
Amen, dude. You've literally taken, there's
Literally the name, to sort of cut you off, the name The School of Greatness came to me because it's all the skills I wish they would have taught me in school.
Right.
Because school didn't teach me much.
Yeah.
Sports taught me discipline, taught me like coaching, working together, communicating, all these different things, hard work. But I was like, man, I don't understand how to deal with a heartbreak. I don't understand how to deal with money challenges. I don't know how to deal with wounds. I don't know how to deal with success. Like school didn't teach me the lessons that I wish I learned. So that's why I created School of Greatness.
I was about to say, my mom used to tell me whatever the devil made for bad, God could make for good.
Mm-hmm.
And everything from you being where you were in special ed to you being in sports, like God was building you to be this machine of a mentor for all the kids walking in your shoes that didn't have the ability to go. What a blessing it is for kids to go on a phone right now and just type in your podcast and be able to like, oh, I'm not alone in this. I could feel secure and safe.
I don't know if you felt this way, George. You seemed like you had a lot more confidence than I did when I was growing up. But when I was in school, almost every day I questioned, why am I here? What's the purpose of my life? And anyone watching or listening right now, especially in your teens or 20s, you might be asking yourself, why am I here? What's the purpose? Like everything seems to be challenging around me. It all seems to be hard. There doesn't seem to be certainty. Friends ghost me, girlfriend break up with me. All these things are happening. Why? And almost daily I would think that. And I was like, why am I here? What's the purpose of this? And it's so hard to see the future of why all this pain is building you and creating for you. It's so hard when you're in it to know that you're not going to be in it forever.
Yeah.
And that this is not going to be 100 years of your life of suffering and sadness. And I think something that you two are doing that is beautiful, that I'm so grateful for, I get chills just thinking about it, is that you're bringing spirituality and God to people who are confused, sad, stressed, overwhelmed, depressed, anxious about life. And we may be able to look at it and say, it's simple. You're just going through a little breakup. It's not that big a deal. You'll be fine. But when you're in the middle of that, it feels like your life is over.
Can't breathe.
Feels like everything.
You feel suffocated. You feel, I can't do anything. And I'm so grateful that you guys are sharing these purposeful conversations that create more meaning in a world where just a lot of content is purposeless. And it's just gossip or humor or whatever without meaning also behind it. So I'm really appreciative of both of you for doing this.
Thank you.
And again, I was telling you before that I just feel like you are in your purpose at the highest level right now for this season. And it's going to evolve over time, but you know, it's beautiful what you're both doing, and to have the courage to do it when most aren't willing to do it is really beautiful.
That means the world to me, man. I think at a young age when I did feel like how you were describing, like, why am I here? I had that at a very young age. I think it was the 3rd grade. I had a dream, and it had a personal moment between me and God. And I said, even if you do exist, I hate you. Because if you exist, then you let this happen.
Why do I suffer so much?
Yeah, if you exist, you suck at your job.
Right.
Yeah, and I think the truth is, man, like if you're in a place where you don't know who you are, yeah, he's the best. I think truly, man, if you don't know who you are, what you're made for, what you're doing, I think if you don't know who you are, you don't know who your creator is. Mm-hmm. And you need to get that fixed. And then the second thing that I got fixed was God told me this. He left me 2 commandments. He goes, love God with all your heart and love your neighbors as yourself. If you just focus on these 2, just trust me for the rest.
Yeah.
So I do go through storms. In fact, I'm in one right now that I'm just kind of coasting through. And then,
A storm?
yeah, and I've realized that.
Are you able to share or no?
Yeah, I mean, it's a small look at it. Like I learn in front of others, and I made a mistake with the verbiage, and it separated a lot of people, and a lot of people that used to love me hate me. And So all these things that I would sit there and be like, oh man, why did I even think that word was okay? Like, that's not what my meaning was. All these thoughts, and I would sit there and I just breathe and I say, all right, I'm just going to focus on God, because I can't see what he's doing right now. I'm blind to it, but I'm going to trust that my Father is holding my hand and he'll move me through it. That's where I build my trust from. And then I also like gotten really, really good at forgiving, because a lot of the weight that I would hold is just either jealousy, anger, or pride. And if I could master getting rid of these weights, then I feel a little bit more free and able to move around.
It's interesting you're saying that, because I don't know how many of these kind of challenging storms you've been through in life, but a mentor and a friend of mine once told me that a bad day for the ego is a great day for the soul.
Amen.
And
So, yeah.
Dude, don't you love being at the absolute top and then God just slamming you on the ground?
I don't know if I love it, but I mean, it's like it's not enjoyable when you're in it, man, because you feel like you're grasping for air that you cannot get a control of. You're like, I didn't mean that. I didn't want to intend that. Why are they all assuming something's bad about me when that wasn't what I was saying or whatever? You know, it's like, and it's just a reminder and a reflection of like, okay, how can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? Whether I was right or wrong, good or bad, how can I continue to elevate to be better as a human being and serve? Yeah. Serve with better intentions. And I'd like to ask you guys both this question. I'm just curious, unless you were going to say something there, I don't want to cut you off, but how old are you guys?
How old are we?
Yeah.
I'm 32.
26.
26. So imagine 42, George.
Yeah.
I mean, you've had an incredible run in the last 10 years since you've been out in LA and wherever else you've been, right?
It's long.
It feels like 30 years probably the last decade.
It feels long.
But you've had many lives that I've seen, you know, just observing you from the outside and seeing your journey. And you're newly married, was it like a year, 6 months? How long?
Not even.
Yeah, September.
Yeah. But imagine you at 42, a decade away from now, right? And from after what you've experienced the last decade, the storm you're going through now, the season of life where you're newly married, you'll be 10 years married. Imagine your life in 10 years. What do you want that life to be in 10 years from now? How do you want to be living and serving at the highest level?
Well, dude, I love your questions, bro. I understand why you're so damn good at this job, bro. And by the way, learning a lot from you as we speak.
What's the vision you have 10 years out?
Not to plug, but this is truly how I feel. I have a tour coming out at the end of the year, and it's called Man on Water. The Man on Water is a comedy podcast show, but the idea around it is when you're in a storm, you could either be drowning underneath it or standing on the water, focusing on God and your purpose. And so when you say, what am I going to do in 10 years? I dream and I pray and I submit this to God. But anything that I could do with my talents, I pray that God could use me to build his kingdom, and that when people look at me, they could breathe and feel more alive because I'm reflecting God in every atmosphere that I'm in. That's what I pray. I pray that when people see me, they feel safer, they feel more peace, they feel brighter. I used to want to just be like famous and this entertainer, and now I just feel like I just want to serve, but the only way I could serve is entertaining. So I do it in that form.
Yeah.
I pray that I'm doing that in my 40s.
What do you think is going to be the biggest thing that holds you back from being that in 10 years?
Myself. My own ego.
What part of your ego?
My ego and my fears. So
what are your fears?
My fear is like whenever I'm not fearing the right thing. So for example, I think you become what you fear. So that's why God says, fear me is the beginning of wisdom. But if I fear I'm going to disappoint her as a husband, I will mold myself into that bad husband. So I think that my fears, I forget to trust in my faith. My mom used to always say, when you have fear, you tie God's hands. When you have faith, you let his hands go back into working. So like my whole thing is like, for example, if I make a mistake on the podcast, sometimes I get so scared that people think of me as something I'm not. It cripples me. And then I have to breathe and be like, okay, well, I'm not that. God knows who I am. Take another step and breathe. I think my latest prayer has been asking Jesus to give me a spine like him. And I think that's what I'm trying to do. What
type of spine is that?
A bold one. One who knows his Father's voice, one who's not worried about what others think. I know I say I don't worry about what other people's thinks, but my mouth can't cash what my body's doing, you know? And reflection's a good thing, but sometimes it's too much. Like sometimes I reflect myself too much, where it's like I don't let myself breathe. And
just be. Yeah.
I think, you know, the Bible teaches, I just learned this from my mentor. My Bible teaches like this: too much of this is bad and too much of this is bad. And it points you to the center of things. And so I think that right now I'm just trying to learn balance and like obedience and discipline. All these fundamentals that my teacher said I didn't have, turns out they were right. Like, you know what I mean? Like they said a lot of mean things, but they said a lot of things that I should have listened. And I think I just got to be a little bit more disciplined.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing you say is it's a beautiful reflection. And I think people say balance is what they need more of in life. But what I really believe is we need more alignment. And alignment is just being more, it's like not worrying about one way or the other way, like you said, but just being in alignment with your truth, in alignment with your values, in alignment with your words, and being the best you can be in that. And we're human beings. We're going to be out of integrity at different times. And how can we get back in alignment so we feel balanced? But I love that reflection. And if I can ever be of support or service, please let me know.
Actually, my few questions I want to know is like, how would I get into this coaching thing? Like for example, like you say you have a coach.
Yeah, I have multiple coaches.
So I have multiple mentors. But you said you picked up a book, and we were talking about this before we started shooting, and you said, but I look at that book and I'm like, because like I'm already progressing. At what point do you feel comfortable enough to go out and preach what you believe is to be true?
For me, I never think about it as like I'm preaching myself. Everything I do is about gaining wisdom from another and then sharing personal stories around that wisdom. So even in my book, it's like I have tons of interviews and excerpts from people that are way smarter than me at this topic. And then I share personal stories on how I've applied it. That's how I like to approach it, as opposed to
like a canvas.
Yeah, as opposed to I have the answers, look at me, I'm the guru. I don't like to look at it that way. I like to look at like
too daunting.
I'm a student of this topic.
Yes.
I'm a student of life.
Yes.
Here's all my flaws.
Amen.
And all my problems that I've had. And here are some of the tools that I've learned to overcome those challenges. And here are the people that taught me these tools. That's how I try to approach everything. It's too daunting for me to have everyone look at me to have all the answers. It's more like, here are the pain and the problems I've had. Here's the tools that have supported me overcome them. You can try these tools or not. It's just one avenue.
Because you have to be lying at some degree to think that you really got it figured out.
I don't have it figured out, and that's why I'll always be a student.
So I could start now. I could just, as long as I'm honest.
Start at any moment. That's why I think you were asking me about, like, you know, I wrote a book 10 years ago, and I look back at it now and I can kind of cringe at it, even though people will buy it and read it and they're like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But we are our biggest critics and our biggest judge 100%. Of who we were. You were looking at yourself at 21 when you moved out here. You probably looked at yourself like a bozo or something compared to where you are now.
Demon.
Right?
Demon.
Exactly. You're like,
demon.
You're chasing girls around. You're saying crazy stuff. But it's like, you can't judge your younger self. Right. You should be judging how far you've come from that version of you. And that's what you should be judging or assessing and saying, wow, look how much I've grown and improved. And you now at 32, you're going to be a completely different human being at 42 because you're going on a growth journey, because you're holding yourself accountable, because you're interviewing experts and other people that are wiser than you. You're going to infuse that information and ultimately grow. And I think you can write a book now if you want to. And
I just want to write it a perspective.
It's your perspective now. It's not, I have the answers as a 32-year-old. I didn't have the answers at 32. And so that's where it can be. And it can start through your top lessons you've learned on this show in the last year.
I think it's so great that you do this, because I think a lot of times, you know, when you're listening to someone who says that they have the answers, right? They're saying, this is how you do it. And you're like, okay, cool, great. But I want to see how you applied it. So the fact that you're showing the step-by-step of like, through your life, then people actually get to grasp. Sometimes you need a visual, you know what I mean, of how they applied it throughout their life, not just like, this is the how-to.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you don't know how to apply it.
And we all need messengers we can relate to. You know, you're a messenger sharing a message from your perspective of life right now. And people watch and listen to you guys because they like you as a messenger with the message you're sharing right now. It's helping them. You're not a pastor out here preaching like a pastor would at a church. Yeah. But you have wisdom that you've learned from pastors that you can share that's relatable, and people can see themselves in you as a messenger at this season of life. And I think that's empowering. You shouldn't You shouldn't hide from that. And I wanted to ask you the same question, though, Shawna. At 36, right? You're 26 now?
Yeah.
At 36, who is the person you want to be? Not what do you want to do or have accomplished, but who do you want to be within 10 years? If you can see the higher version of you 10 years out.
Oh, man. I guess I just want to be the best version of myself in the sense that, you know, sometimes I think that you learn so many things from your relationship with God, right? Like I learn these things with God and then you try to apply it to your life. But then sometimes when certain things happen, you kind of forget everything that you learned and you go back to like how you used to think or your fears or your worries and things like that, right? So I think in 10 years, I want to be able to be in a place where I'm so confident in the person that I am because I found that like my true confidence has been my confidence with my relationship with the Lord. And so in 10 years, I pray that I can be in a place where I know it so well, like the back of my hand, that I don't even have to think about it. It's just what I naturally do, you know? And I think that like I'm slowly starting to do that as I'm like becoming more and more confident with the wisdom that I'm learning from God. But I guess in 10 years, I'd want it to be like it's no job, you know what I mean? It just comes like naturally.
What's the biggest thing holding you back from that now?
Nothing. I think that's something that like I'm currently, you know, working on and applying in my life. And I guess in 10 years now, I don't know. I just want to be able to be good and do good for the people around me and be at peace and be happy always. And I think know that like, there's always going to be obstacles in life. There's always going to be things coming your way, but as you grow, they'll be easier because you know how to handle them better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it doesn't always have to be, it could be a really hard situation, but I think that it's what you make it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's how you deal with it.
And what's the biggest fear for you then over the next 10 years?
Letting go of what other people think.
Is that something that holds you back right now?
Yeah, because I try to people please, you know, or I overwhelm myself with like, I do what he said, where you're like, I think that this is what they're thinking about me, and I make it true when it's not true. They're not even thinking that about me, but I make it true.
Who do you people please the most in your life?
People I love.
Who's is it family? Is it George? Is it friends? Is it followers? Is it podcast listeners? Is it
Probably like family and friends.
family and friends? You care about their opinion the most.
Super. Yeah.
But you feel like you will try to overplease to make sure that they like and love and trust you?
I don't know. It's so personal.
You don't have to answer if you don't want to. I open up about pretty much everything. So,
No, I like it. It's like, it's just something you don't really think about how to explain it. You know what I mean? But I guess maybe being able to like say no when I want to say no. Like sometimes it's okay to just to say no if I don't want to, or to be able to like explain myself a little bit better. You know what I mean? Instead of just like always saying yes, 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 and being able to be like, well, you know, right now I can't do this because of this.
How does it feel when you always say yes to everyone, even when you don't want to do it?
In some way, it's like satisfying for the moment because then you feel like you're satisfying the other person. So it feels temporarily satisfying, but in the long term, when you do something that you don't want to do, then you're like
Exhausted.
Then you're exhausted.
It's exhausting. Yeah. How can George support you in empowering you or encouraging you to continue to evolve and grow in that journey?
I think he's already is doing it.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Belle's like, she's an athlete. So anybody who's an athlete knows like they're easily coachable. A good athlete is coachable.
Yes.
I knew Belle was going to be the greatest life partner ever when every person you dance with, at one point, they start slacking on something. And I'll never forget the day that I went up to her and I said, hey, you know, this is really bothering me. So I think this is our second year dating?
Yeah.
Yeah, second year dating. And I said, I love you with all my heart. I go, but I won't jeopardize my life. If you continue this, I'm going to have to part from you.
Wow.
And you would think...
Can you share what that was, or is it more of a personal thing?
I mean, yeah, I guess it's not that big of a deal. I mean, we won't go that deep into it, but it was just like...
She's like,
I think Belle was so ready to serve me, she forgot about serving herself.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just kind of like, hey, you're your own person. Like, you have to go out and like and really conquer things and stop worrying about what I'm thinking of you and just go out.
She was an extreme people pleaser with you.
Yeah.
Before.
And by the way, it was beautiful. And I could have taken advantage of it.
And she's like, wherever you want to go, I'll go with you every day, every night. Whatever you're doing, I'm here.
And
it's beautiful.
And a man could take advantage of it because they always want that type of relationship. But I know that when she's at her best state, then I'm at my best state. And I just sat there and I told her, bro, I told her once. And she was like, got it. And she's just like, took over it like it was nothing. And then the next time I said something, she did it. And I was like, oh, shit. Like, I'm going to have to jump up on my actions. Like, when I say something, I was the talker, but no action. She was the no talker and all action.
Wow.
So I'm around people that motivate me, but in the true sense of things, God gave me a partner to dance with to better myself like nobody's business.
What's the thing you love about Shawna the most?
Her humbleness. She is the greatest human being I've ever met in my life, and yet the most calm and meek individual.
Wow.
You have to pry it out of her to see her gold. It is just, there's not a human being that I know that's like her. Honestly, at such a stage that if you gave me the greatest gift in the world, it actively makes me want to do good for the gift giver. So every day when I thank God for her, I could thank him with my mouth or I could thank him with my actions. And there's so many times where I have to go and apologize to her or like recalibrate who I am. But the people that everybody come up and they congratulate me for who I am would have never taken effect if God didn't give me Belle to reflect myself.
What a beautiful gift, yeah. What's the thing you love about George the most?
He has the biggest heart that anyone could ever have. And I mean that not just like he has the biggest heart towards anyone and everything. And I don't think a lot of people know this about him because sometimes, you know, like when it comes to business relationships or things like that, you know, he's very like on his word and he's very like to the point. But man, there's no one that cares more than George. And like George can notice anything about me. Like if my eyelash is slightly to the right, he like notices it. If I do something, he notices everything about me. And I don't think like a lot of people do that.
That's beautiful.
He's the best person.
That's beautiful.
Dude, are we on your show?
I know, why are we like in question?
How are you that good at your job that you just switched on us? Hold on. Before we land the plane, because you have to get out of here. You have to get out of here. But I have to get these. Stop being so good at your job, dude. First of all, thank you for being on the show. But there was one that I had to ask you. I'm very new to podcasting. This is my 3rd season in. Wow. And
when did you start it? Like a year and a half ago?
Yeah, around a year and a half ago. We just hit like 102 episodes.
Wow,
this is going to be the 103.
Congrats.
Thank you. My favorite part about podcasting is sitting with great guests like you, but the moments after and before, you get to like kind of spend time with your guests. Unlike you, because you have to dip now, but we would have broke bread and hung out.
I would love to, yeah.
But usually you get to sit with these people that either you look up to or you learn from, and there's an aspect to them off the camera that you get to see, and you're like, okay, cool, this person's like how he says, or like he's even more, or he's full of shit. I would love to know, if you're comfortable with this, I would love to know what Kobe Bryant was like when the cameras weren't on.
Man, people always ask me like, who's my favorite guest? Because I've done 12 years. Every single week I've done a podcast for 12 years.
That's crazy.
How are you not exhausted?
There's been seasons where I've had to make sure I get back on alignment and delegate certain things because I was doing kind of everything in the beginning. And so I've had to learn how to keep it fun by creating boundaries, essentially.
Yeah.
But 12 years, I think it's, I don't know, 1,800 episodes, something like that. Kobe is still my definitely top 3. And I'll share a quick story because it was pretty special because at the time he had just won an Oscar. He had already retired. He'd won 5 NBA championships. He just won an Oscar. I don't know if you remember that, but he won an Oscar for like a short film that he did. And he was just like an icon, you know, before his death. He was just like massive.
Yeah.
And I remember it was very interesting because the night before I did the interview, I got a call from someone on my team that said, "Hey, Kobe just launched a podcast for kids." And it was called The Punies. I don't know if you remember this. Yeah, right?
Jessica showed it to me. Yeah.
And he's doing they just launched, but he's doing press with some of the top podcasters, right? And can you do it? He's got 15 minutes a month away from now. It was like a day in the future. And I was like, do not get off the phone. This is the person on my team. I was like, get back on the call. Do not get off the call until you say we'll do it tomorrow, anytime, any place. Because I knew he was like in the OC. And I was here in LA. So I go, I'll go to his office at 6 a.m., whatever. Like, do not get off the phone until you get a confirmation that's tomorrow. Because if we book this in a month out,
it's done. It's never
not
happening.
happening. It's not happening. It's going to get
especially
pushed
with
and
him.
pushed. No, it's never going to happen. So I go, make it happen tomorrow. they make it happen. And it's like 7 o'clock at night or something. And I'm kind of like, oh, I'm about to interview Kobe. Okay, cool. Let me go prepare. But I wasn't really prepared because I didn't have enough time. So, and I'm at a concert that night seeing a friend play. So I'm kind of like, all right, let me be present. But I know I got this interview in the morning. I got to wake up early. I literally get there at 6 a.m. The interview starts at 8. I go, can I get there early to set up? It's just me and one camera person, Tiffany, who was on my team at the time. And I get there 6 a.m. The assistant opens the door. This was in his office in the OC. Opens the door, turns the lights on. The lights are off. And she's like, here's the place in the office where we typically do interviews. Do you want to set up here? I go, can I see the whole office just to see if there's a better background? We go down like a long hallway with kind of offices, but big kind of windows. So you can see in the sides of the offices, like a hallway with like boardrooms and offices. I walk into another big room and it's just kind of the corporate-y. I was like, okay, there's nothing over here. Let's walk back through this hallway. And on the way back through this hallway, in one of the glass windows, I see a figure sitting in the corner of this office as we pass by. And when we pass by, I say to the assistant, was that Kobe in there? Like, it was just a figure, a silhouette in the corner. And she goes, yeah, he's been here for like the last hour. I go, what? I go, no one's here. No one's here. He's in the office alone. The computer wasn't on. His phone wasn't on. It was just him like looking up in a silhouette. And I go, what's he doing? She was like, oh, he was up at 4 working out with his daughter, the one that was also in the crash, working out basketball with her. And he likes to be the first one here to really prepare himself for the day.
Wow.
And just that right there, I was like, this dude has won 5 NBA championships or however many, MVP. He's a mega 100 millionaire, whatever he has. He just won an Oscar. He's still here at 6 a.m. before everyone else in his office.
Before you.
To prepare for the day, before me.
Wow.
And I got there 2 hours early. And I was like, this guy's another level.
He
Right
really
at that
is.
point, I was like, oh, this is another level. We set up, and I can kind of see the corner of his office where we set up, but I can't see him. He can't see me. There's kind of like a wall blocking us. But we set up, and I'm just kind of waiting, like maybe he's going to come out at any time. But I'm like, let's make sure the cameras are working, the mics are working. It was a very like rinky-dinky setup. This was like 6 years ago or something. Couple cameras, couple lav mics, and one camera person. And we're waiting. And now it's like 7 o'clock, 7:30. He's not coming out. No lights coming on. And people are starting to come in the office. His publicists come in, and other production companies are coming in because he's doing kind of interviews all day. And it's getting like chaos in the office now. And the publicist's coming to me. There's maybe 20 minutes until the interview. And they give me a list of like a sheet of papers of like, here's everything you can't talk about. You can't say these words. You can't ask these questions.
20 minutes
before. I was like, oh, geez. Okay.
That's what he was doing in the room. He was just writing
Yeah, right.
this out.
Yeah. And they're like, you have 15 minutes. Lil Wayne is there setting up with his production company, doing something for like HBO Sports or something. And it was just all day ESPN's. There was a whole like media circus, right? And I'm like, okay, this is crazy. Lil Wayne's over here with like his posse, and all these people are coming to set up. And I'm just here with a couple of cameras ready to go. And they're telling me I got 15 minutes. I don't know what I can get out of him in 15 minutes. I don't know if he's going to be more surface level and just kind of like bullet points, like I'm going to stick to the script and just let's talk about the podcast. That's it. I have no idea. So I know, like you just said, it's all going to be about before the interview, what happens in order to make this great. And I know I'm going to have a couple of moments. So I tell Tiffany on my team, I say, the moment he walks out and comes up to me, put the mic on him right away. Because we need to start recording instantly if I've only got 15 minutes.
Wow, smart.
Put it on him. And I just knew my energy had to be on point in order to make this great. And I asked him a couple of things. Right away, I acknowledged him. I just said, Kobe, I just want to acknowledge you. Because I have a lot of Olympic friends who say that you are the kindest, most generous guy at every Olympics, that you take photos with them, you'll talk with people on the USA team, and I just want to acknowledge you for that, on how awesome you are at the Olympics. And he goes, man, the Olympics were like my dream. I loved being in the Olympic Village. I loved hanging out with the athletes. And I said, I play a sport called team handball, and I played with the USA national team at that time. And it's always been my dream to go to the Olympics. And he stops me. He goes, what? You play team handball? He He goes, I played that in Italy when I was playing basketball. I loved playing that sport. It was amazing over there. Now we're sitting down. It's like mic'd up, shake hands.
Oh, you got all
down.
that while he's standing up?
Yeah. Sitting down.
You're
all this
just
stuff.
great
it's
at this job.
Let's go. Sitting down. You got, God, handball is amazing. And then I said, I've also just heard so many great things about you from some mutual friends of ours. And the publicist says, who's your mutual friend? Kind of like seeing if I'm a BSer. And I go, well, I just had Novak Djokovic on recently, and he talked about how you're like his brother. He goes, that guy is the man. He is my brother, and he's like a killer on the court. And then I have these pieces of paper on my lap, and the publicists are all there. They're like, okay, go. And I go, I have all this information here of all the things I'm not supposed to say. Is there anything else off limits that you don't want me to talk about? And he just grabs my leg and looks at me and says, ask me anything you want and take as long as you need. And I get the chills just thinking about it. I get the chills just thinking about it. He goes, ask me anything you want, take as long as you need. And for me, that was just like, man, that's cool that he was willing to do that for me when Lil Wayne is over here and all these people are waiting for him. And he's got a busy day. He doesn't know who I am. I'm just like small podcast at that time. I mean, he was growing, but it wasn't
but
like,
he respected your character, dude.
Yeah, and it was just like, I think I was really, my ability to connect with him as a human being is what I think made him be like open. And I think that's the key, is being able to understand and read people and connect with them and meet them where they're at. If he was like down and like, all right, let's go, I'd have just been like, okay, cool, whatever you need, I'm here for you. But he was receptive. He shook my hand. He looked me in the eyes like, thank you so much for being here. And so I was willing to go where he was willing to go. And that, we went, I think, 40 or 45 minutes. His publicist was like telling me to wrap it up the whole time. But he was like, yeah, keep going if you want to ask a few more. They were doing their job. And it was one of the most powerful experiences. Right afterwards, he followed me on Instagram, DM'd me, said, I'd love to do this again sometime. And I was just like, he doesn't have to do that. And we were planning to do another one, but then the accident happened. And so for me, it was just a beautiful moment to be able to experience that with him. Again, I don't know him. I didn't know him well. I spent 1 hour with him in total.
Yeah, but an impactful
But that
one.
was a beautiful energy, and so many people have said that interview has changed their life. So it was a beautiful moment.
Dude, Louis, thank you so much for being who you are, man. For taking everything that the world throws at you and really being able to tee up other people. Like, for real, like, that is an incredible thing. You should be extremely proud of the human being you are.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on this show. I know you and I have been talking about maybe you popping in for one of these live shows and really just shaking up the audience.
That'd be fun.
If we can make that work, that would be beautiful.
We'd love to if we
because,
can.
dude, that would be an honor to share the stage with you. I do pray that the next time we have you on, that I'd be a better interviewer and you not interview us.
I know.
I do it with everyone, man. I do it with everyone,
You're just,
so.
you know what? You are the Kobe Bryant of freaking interview, the podcasting. Hey, listen, man. Next time you come, take all the time you want.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here,
Thanks,
bro.
brother.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.